There are days each year when the combination of cold, snow, fog, ice, and wind on top of Mount Washington, New Hampshire can match extremes in polar regions or on peaks 3 or 4 times its height. And this past Sunday was the 75th anniversary of a world record set on the mountain. Now, in most of New England, the warmth of spring arrives in April, but winter often stays well into May in the high peaks of New Hampshire's presidential range, where Mount Washington towers to 6,288 feet, highest in the Northeast. The first regular weather observations were made there from 1870 to 1892 by the early Weather Bureau. Then the summit was reoccupied in 1932 by the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory, which still monitors weather there today. The climate on the peak is as harsh as anywhere in the Northeast. The average January high, just 14 degrees. In July, only 54. Compare that to 31 and 83 in Concord, a bit farther south and much lower in elevation. Average annual snow on the summit, 261 inches, nearly 22 feet. But the number that put Mount Washington in the world record book dates from April 1934. The weather map on the 11th of that month showed a huge ridge of high pressure in place over eastern Canada, blocking the progress of a developing storm over the Great Lakes. The large pressure difference between the two sent strong southeast winds into New England, gusting past 100 miles per hour on the mountain. Those moist ocean winds created rime ice so thick on the weather instruments that it had to be hacked off with a wooden club. By early on April 12th, the winds had increased past 150 miles per hour, and one of the observers wrote in the logbook, "I dropped all other activities and concentrated on observations. Everyone in the house was mobilized as during a war attack and assigned a job. The instruments were watched continuously. The anemometer was particularly watched." The wind continued to increase and gusted above 200 miles per hour between noon and 1 p.m. and at precisely 1:21, the extreme value of 231 miles per hour was reached, still the highest natural surface wind speed ever officially recorded by an anemometer on Earth. The instrument had been specially designed for Mount Washington and tested in a wind tunnel at MIT before being installed. And after the record wind, it was retested by the Weather Bureau to confirm the validity of the extreme reading. There have been a few close calls to the record in the years since. The most recent was in 1997, when a typhoon in the Western Pacific reportedly produced a wind of 236 miles per hour on Guam. But a post-storm analysis deemed that reading unreliable, and the Mount Washington record remains. Paul Knight is back with the extended forecast. Next.
251.